This project aimed to explore the main difference in education between the private school systems in a regional border town and a metropolitan school in Victoria. There are many themes and concepts in the book Hillbilly, Elegy that relate to inclusion and exclusion within the Australian education system, as well as living and working in a regional town, and the vast difference in populations and communities which are separated marginally sometimes by street signs. A study by Corvat and Corvat 2016 investigated dimensions of inclusion in education and defined the term inclusion under 3 dimensions. First dimension regarded the levels, the second dimension focused on the type, and the third dimension looked at the degrees in which inclusion-exclusion occurs within communities. From reading this short paragraph of this study, it became clear to me that Hillbilly Elegy largely focused on the second and third dimensions of inclusion this article references. Alternatively, a separate study by Vanderbeek, Rotes and Roos 2017 outlined that exclusion within education is a multi-layered concept and covers the physical absence of people as well as the lack of connection or availability of education. This article goes on to state that young people's socio-economic status plays a huge part in their performance in education, which in turn leads to social inequality or exclusion and a hierarchy of social inequality. The book Hillbilly Elegy strongly relates to this and a life that J.D. Vance lived and endured to attend Yale Law School in comparison to his partner, who also attended Yale Law School but had an almost opposite upbringing. The book Hillbilly Elegy is a memoir of the author, his family, and his life and how he made it from a low socio-economic Alsatian family riddled with violence and drugs to a successful lawyer. The book focuses on key themes and concepts including economic struggles, cultural dynamics, family and community influence, and educational barriers. These inclusion-exclusion issues draw ties to Australian education systems and policies. As a teacher working at a private Catholic school in Mildura, each day I experience working with children and families on both sides of the socio-economic spectrum and view from the outside the differences between a public and private education system. This multimedia presentation will focus on the area of social justice within the community that I live in and how what I read in Hillbilly Elegy relates to the social dynamics and the Australian education system in Mildura. In terms of comparison to the Australian education system, I found this book very relatable. There are many parts and examples that I read that I was able to link back to what I see daily. One example at the start of the book discusses the family members of J.D. Vance and how they made their way from Kentucky to Ohio in search of a better life. The book makes mention of the Hillbilly Highway, which is known as Route 23. This highway was used entirely in the post-World War II era, when many families made their way from the south to the north for higher-paying industrial jobs. In the book, J.D. Vance's grandfather knew that the only way up for a hillbilly was out, and the highway took them there. However, hillbilly life still followed the family, and many people only assume that J.D. Vance is a genius for ending up where he ended up. This relates to me as a VCE teacher and asking students where they see themselves and what they see themselves doing in future after school. The responses are always similar: to get out of Mildura. However, even if they do, I see within the staff members that many do return due to family being here and them needing to help out their now older parents and or siblings. A large number of staff at the school that I work at went to the same school that they currently work at, and they only left to go to uni, and often they refer to Mildura as a vortex. Once you're here, it's really hard to get out. Another part of the book that really resonated with me personally was page 177 and previous, where J.D. Vance is discussing his life in the Marine Corps prior to starting school at Ohio State. He said, "When I joined the Marine Corps, I did so in part because I wasn't ready for adulthood. Now I knew exactly what I wanted out of my life and how to get there. This resonated with me because I did the same thing. Joined the Air Force straight out of school because I didn't know what I wanted, and then began university at the age of 25 when I finally figured it out. This has given me a level of maturity that when I was 18 I didn't know I needed, but this life experience has paid off and helped me to become a more compassionate and caring with students as a pre-service teacher." When comparing the school I work at with a similar school in metropolitan area that also comes under Mercy Education with a similar number of students, there were differences between the two, linking to social justice. For example, School 1 Regional sat at 59% on the ICSEA percentile, meaning that it's more educationally advantaged than 59% of other schools within Australia. However, on the next screen at School 2, which is a metropolitan school, the score was at 77, meaning it's 77% more advantaged than other schools. A large difference was also seen in the number of Indigenous and language background other than English data. When comparing educationally, the metropolitan school showed better results, displaying above average results across reading, writing and grammar in comparison to the regional school that showed average results across the board. This is a good data example which relates back to Hillbilly, elegy and the point made that students who come from regional or lower socioeconomic areas are subject to a lower standard of education. In terms of social justice, this is a clear example, as social justice refers to a political theory that focuses on the concept of fairness in relations between individuals and society and equal access to wealth, opportunities, education, and social privileges.